It's going to be decent, and you know, Lord knows I don't want to be aggravated because we're not ready for it. That she had to wake up by 11 o'clock in the morning to go straight.
Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the Texas Water Safari Seminar here in Martindale, Texas. This next section will be covering the course description, and although we're having a little issue with the PowerPoint, we will be posting this in the YouTube and on Facebook so that folks can refer back to it at a later date. Thank you for your patience, and please let me know if you can hear or if you cannot hear.
All right. So this, we're going to go through the basics of the course, of what the Texas Water Safari course is.
Microphone. Microphone.
I will tell you.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
We will tell you. We're going to go over the basics of the Texas Water Safari course. Now, I don't want anybody to get the idea that this is like going to do, like say the Houston Marathon, where you can go and I can tell you the course and you never have to run it. All you have to do is follow the mile markers. This course is changing all of the time. I had a particular instance with my partner Ron Pop. We passed from Palmetto State Park to Gonzales, and then we went back to run that same stretch that night in the dark because we figured we were going to be somewhere in the dark. And I started moving the boat towards what looked like the spot, and I finally said, "Ron, am I going the right way?" And he looked at it and said, "I don't know, this wasn't here earlier today." So it changed that fast. You know, during some of the high water events, you actually have trees falling, you know, while that sounds so dramatic. Stuff can fall in the race, you know, during the race. I mean, it just happens. The bay can be anything from, you know, dead calm to, you know, something that looks like the perfect storm kind of thing. And I would say that most of the people who paddled the bay this last year would say that it really managed to get to that point. What do you think?
It was interesting.
It was interesting? The first place team actually had a wave break over their bow paddler's head to give you an idea how big it was getting out there. So there's a reason for those life techniques. Anyhow, also on this course description, I don't mean to make so many disclaimers, but the other thing that happens is you're going to take your GPS unit with you, and you're going to be going down the course, and you're going to get to Rio Vista, and it's going to be, you know, 1.24 miles, and I wrote 1.25 on there, and it probably isn't anybody in here, somebody's going to complain about that. You know, and I do the same thing. I go run on a course, and, you know, my watch says that it, you know, I didn't do a 5K, that was only 3 miles, you know, I didn't, you know, or it's, you know, it's 3.3 miles or something. All these things have kind of made it better and made it worse all at the same time. All that to say, it's not pinpoint accuracy. And all that to say, I need to put my glasses on, or I'm not going to get this right. So Rio Vista Dam, the race that starts at Spring Lake, at Operated Springs, more properly called the Meadow Center nowadays. And the first portage is at Spring Lake Dam, and this is going to be the most crowded you know on the entire race. Everybody's going to be going for their spot, you know, right, center, far left. And you can't get on Spring Lake to practice. I want to be real clear about that. You can only see it on race day. As a matter of fact, right now you can't even paddle upstream to it because they have it buoys to keep us from going up there right now because there's damage to the wild rice because the water is so low. Rio Vista Dam can be ported right, left, or it can be run through the center of the dam. I have to tell you, the social media folks would prefer that you ran through the center of the dam because it makes for much better pictures. However, most everyone is going, and it's in a series of 3 drops: top drop, middle drop, and the bottom drop. most folks will portage at least that top drop. Am I saying that right? And you know, and have the second two sections. Some will carry all the way around. It's worth seeing. But yeah.
I was just going to say, not only seeing but running it. We've actually had boats pinned on that second drop. Late in the race, when people had to go portage and go around. We've actually had somebody see one that broke the end completely off their boat on that second drop as well, because if the boat turns sideways, an 18-foot boat, it will get pinned. So it's just something you should run that thing before the race.
And how long is an aluminum boat?
74.
So that boat is that drop is only 17 feet 3 wide. I will tell you, because somewhere on YouTube, if you dig for Texas Water Safari videos long enough, some team managed to get their boat pinned in the middle of the drop, and how the boat didn't wrap on its own, I have no idea. I mean, it was all the things you don't do. Open it up, all the rivers going through it, and nothing happened. The fire department finally had to yank it out, which finally destroyed it. But I mean, so just be careful. Thompson's Island Dam, you may hear this referred to as Cape Dam. It's about a quarter mile past the I-35 bridge. Most people at this water level will portage right. There's a right-hand portage. Do not go over the buoys to portage over the dam. But just past the buoys, there's a trail that leads back to the main channel. There is, at this point,
It's okay, they asked.
There is, at this point, a left-hand channel that is the old mill race. For some of you veterans that are trying to outthink yourselves, yes, the water is low enough to where you can go underneath the road in the mill race. No, that is not legal. You still have to go back to the main road bridge and go under that. Let's see. That's why we talk about portage right at the end of the mill race. Carry the boat. The side of the road, if you're going to go that way, but you must go under the road bridge with the yellow handrail. I don't know if it's yellow anymore. From that point, you go past the fish hatchery. You're not going to know it, but you're going to go past it. You might smell it from time to time. You're going to get to a big lake area. It's going to be real dead, real still. You can go right. You can go left. Don't go left. That's paddling up the Blanco River. Okay? And, you would think nobody would ever do that. You'll get just a little ways and figure out, no. We had a team make it almost to Walmart. And then they want you to get back in the boat and go again, and you can't do that. I guess if they paddled back out of it, it'd been fine. But they wanted credit for the extra distance they paddled. That wasn't happening. All right. Cummins Dam, you can portage left, right, or over the middle. There's a set of stairs that are useful. Be careful, though, if you're in an aluminum boat or I think aluminum boat is probably the only spec type boat we have this too, but it will get stuck between the handrails. Don't ask me how I know that. You'll get to Westfield Crossing. This is the bridge that's about, I would have said mile 5.5, but it's still it's 5.86 here. It's been rebuilt. You can paddle under it, especially at this water level. Random amount of rocks and sort of things there. As you go through this next section, there are a number of really small type of rapids. Probably the best description you would get would be on TG Canoe's website, or potentially on
Paddle Style, Texas Canoe.
Paddle Style, or she has the other one, Texas Canoe and Kayak. They'll have more detailed descriptions of these small rapids. They're really not anything. Cottonseed Rapid is, the best known rapid on the course. I want to thank training, but you know, lots of cool pictures taken there. The easiest thing to do to scout it if you've never seen it before is as you're coming into, you can see an old broken dam on the right, hit the gravel bar, crawl up on there and go and take a look. It's really shifted around since the 2015 floods and continues to kind of rearrange itself, and so it would be worth seeing. Skulls Crossing, easy money, just duck. Actually, you don't have to duck right now. Old wooden bridge, Martindale Dam. You're going to see the water tower up on the left. It looks like it's going to look like a Chinese spy balloon. That's how I would describe it now. And you're going to see that. You're going to come around and you're going to portage that on the right. So Martindale water crossing, you can see from the top of the dam. I don't understand why, but this seems to be kind of a boat eater. We've had boats manage to get sideways here and wrap. At this water level, you have to be right or left because there's a pile of old rocks and concrete in the center there. But you want to miss that. FM 1979, if you use Spencer canoes for anything, you will be familiar with it, is the next bridge. This next section of the river has some fast current with sweepers and small rapids, and then it gets real flat right above Station Dam. You go by my house, you go by Morgan's house. It's amazing how many people manage through the course of the season to bring something above there and carry it up to my garage. Staples Dam, this is, and double check me that I've got, I know that the double check me for the new one. Okay, Staples Dam, FM 1977. This is the first checkpoint, official checkpoint. It's also the first cutoff. You have 6 hours to get here. Normally I would think if you're going to struggle to get there by 6 hours, that you probably should have started the race to begin with. However, I could see this year with the current water situation, it actually becoming an issue. Now that to say we get a big rain and then everything I just said about it other than the time is moot. Now from 1977 to the Highway 20 bridge is actually at this water level. It's low, a lot of sweepers, I've got 2 boats inside of my garage right now that somebody ran into something and broke. So it's rough, lots of stops, lots of twisty turns, lots of not really rapid kind of things that have rocks sticking out. Prairie League Bridge 1 is not as big a deal as it used to be because they rebuilt the bridge. But in higher water, it can still be an obstacle for you, and that's about 3 miles from Highway 20. And mind you, everything I said about the twisty turning, you know, wants to bite you stuff, is going to apply all the way to Highway 90, the next checkpoint. It's just a very, it's low and there's lots of junk in it. I don't know how else to describe Morgan. Can you think of anything that...
It's more technical section.
Yeah, it's one of those sections, if you actually took a graph, as some nerdy people would do, the times of the race, and compared it to the river level, that is one of the sections that actually you speed up, you know, everything else Staples, you know, from the start to Staples, it has the same curve to it, etc. But that section from Staples to Luling 90 and higher water, it's amazing how much of a difference it makes because you're not having to do all of the maneuvering, etc. The checkpoint that usually causes, we have the most people who are DQ'd on time is Luling Highway 90. You need to reach this by Saturday. As I switch there's actually, just for what it's worth, Stairtown Bridge has a real nice gravel car down on the left if you need to do water exchange. I would suggest walking down there versus driving down there because it's almost more than my truck can bear. So from looping 90 to Zedler Dam, the first mile, 2 miles of it, still a little bit of that twisty technical stuff, but then you get into the backwater off of the dam, and while it's not really technical, there can from time to time be random log jams in there, and they're usually single logs where something's floated across and just not enough current to flush it out. Zedler Dam, which is at Highway 80, or Luling City Park, or I'm trying to think of what all the other things I've already called through the years. You're going to get to that. It's going, for those of you who are getting there later in the evening, there will be a flashing light, the portage on the right. The safest route is to go pretty far right and walk down the trail that the fishermen use. Lots of folks like to be speedy, and they will drop it over the right edge of the dam and go through like that. Worth seeing. The next stretch of river is kind of one of those misleading sections where you'll talk to somebody and they'll say, oh, there's nothing between Zedler and Palmetto State Park, which is a good way to have problems between Zedler and Palmetto State Park. Especially as the river is lower here, there's going to be lots of little going to get you kind of things. You will, yes, you'll get to I-10, about 3 miles-ish, 4 miles-ish. Once you get below I-10, you'll go a few miles and a couple of miles, I guess it would be, and you're going to get into some backwater. And you're going to come to what, let's see, what else, I've heard it called the Rock Slide, Broken Dam Rapid, and Son of Atim. I think it should be like the Satan spawn of Atim because it's an old mill dam that was lots of heavy rock. The old mill race is still active. As a matter of fact, at this water level, there's probably more water going through the old mill race. And do not go into that old mill race. It's not going to kill you, but it will your boat. It's not a good place to be. Probably the best thing to do is portage on the far right. And even then the footing is tricky. It's another one of the places in 2015. It's like the rocks have not decided where they're going to settle out. And we probably lost half a dozen boats there during the race from people who haven't. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure I caught the right second. Do not go into what?
The mill race.
The mill race on the
Thank
left
you.
hand side.
Thank you.
Palmetto State Park and Palmetto Low Water Bridge. You have to reach this by 8 a.m. on Sunday. You have 12 hours allowed for that section because we're assuming that if you're in there at that point, it's going to be night, there's going to be sleeping, that kind of thing. We didn't just make up these cutoff times arbitrarily. There was a lot of thought put into it. At normal to high water levels, before it gets to really high, that low water bridge at Atim is probably...
Palmetto.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it's in Atim. At Palmetto State Park, that low water bridge is probably the most dangerous place on the entire course. The bridge dates from sometimes in the 20s or 30s. At normal water levels, there's about this much clearance under it. You don't want to end up sideways to that bridge. And when it gets just high enough where it's barely going over it, it's scary. When it gets to those situations, we generally Yeah, but
And we've actually had to rescue people. We had a young lady one time who was just there with a family who was wading and fell in. And she went all over the bridge, and fortunately we had a race going and our guys were out here to pull her out. In the same race that we had two guys in the crossroads, one bailed out and they had to grab him before he went under. So high water is really the problem. And they start to flow over the bridge because there's no other place to go and we've got to get out. I'm just saying, at higher water, it's really dangerous.
So what Bob said is at high water, medium-high water, Palmetto is very dangerous.
The top of that bridge, I don't know what they used to grease it back in that day, but it is probably the slickest, slimiest thing I've ever walked on, except for the clay right past Cummings Dam.
There we go, I got it.
It's, I mean, just very good. And it's interesting because when the water gets real high, then the danger is kind of gone for the boats, not for the folks on land, because you're going to go over the top of everything. All that we just said, right now, you can just go underneath it, and it's not a big deal. And at most water levels up to about where it starts going over the bridge, you can actually stand up in front of the bridge, and as long as you're careful walking up there, it's not going to try to sweep it. My daughter, bless her heart, you know, she would get so angry at us because we were always, this is for you team captains and folks with small kids that are going to go along. She would get so angry that we always made her wear a life jacket up until she's like 10 years old or something. Or maybe even beyond that, I don't remember. Nobody else is having to wear it because at some point you're going to fall in the water, and Papa and Grandma don't swim, and so what are you going to do? And sure enough, she ultimately fell off of the bridge there at Octane and floated all down around the corner to somebody, I can't remember who went and got her, but somebody did.
Which bridge were you referring to?
Palmetto.
The low water bridge at Palmetto State Park. Oh, I'm sorry.
There is a little confusion because there's a little town there and it's called Autee.
Autee and Palmetto are kind of synonymous in my book.
Yeah.
Let's see, where are we at? Palmetto.
Sladen.
We're going to go to Sladen. So from Palmetto to the confluence of the San Marcos and Guadalupe River is a section that quite frequently has log jams in it. It could be as little as, you know, a simple log you have to slide the boat across and get back in, to there's been one at least a quarter of a mile long. I mean, and it just depends on when it rains or doesn't rain. Almost to the point right now it's so dry that if we get a big rise all at once, a bunch of stuff's going to fall in. And then then it has to get to be a bigger rise so that it flushes it all out. Slade Cemetery Bridge. You don't want to do a handoff there unless it's like, Kristen says no. Unless it's like a life or death situation, you've run out of water, you've lost everything. There's just no good place to do it. You can no longer drive across the top of Slade Cemetery Bridge. You can come into it from either side, but if you see it, you have seen it.
In a zombie
It's
show.
been like in a zombie movie. It was in, what was that movie that was about, like they set off a big EMP blast and, they're running around, but it looks like something from a zombie movie.
An apocalyptic bridge. Yeah.
I think it's older than I am. Maybe not older than Bob or Jerry. Jerry still here?
No, I think we lost him.
Gonzales 98, Kristen will say not to do a handoff there as well. However, you've had a really long stretch of river. If you have to do it, the last time I was a team captain, we did a handoff there, and fortunately the guy that was with me is about this tall, and he was able to, pick me up out of the muck to get us back to the bridge. It's just, for whatever reason, it's real sticky, nasty mud, and you can only go down the right of way, and it's just not a good spot. Old Iron Bridge and the Cone Street Bridge, I just want you to know this is a marker. You're about halfway between Highway 90A and the confluence of the Guadalupe and San Marcos Rivers. You're going to get to the confluence of the San Marcos River. Which way were you supposed to turn when you got to the Blanco confluence? To the right?
Everybody say it loud. Everybody say right. Yeah.
So, when you get to the confluence of the San Marcos and Guadalupe River, turn left. And it's interesting because, you know, you can have different flows from 90A to the confluence depending on how much water is in the quad. Less water in the quad, more flow on the San Marcos right there. More flow in the quad, lots of backwater on the San Marcos right there. From there you're going to go about, what does it say here? 3.5 miles-ish, and you're going to get to Gonzales Dam. There's going to be a sign that says no activity beyond this point, so you're supposed to stop paddling and simply float from that point to the dam. Okay, probably you should keep paddling because it takes a really long time to float there. As of last year, we have made it a mandatory portage on the left. There is some discussion about, with the water level, that we need to allow the right. We have a Morgan shaking your head, yes. There's a Texas Water Supply Board meeting on Monday, so we'll discuss it then. But as of right now, you have to portage left. I will have put up on the website and give the information for social media this evening. The city of Gonzales owns and operates the dam. Right now, they have a gate that's closed there because the floods have done damage to the riprap down below the dam. However, what they've done is they've given us the gate code and allowed us to share the gate code with you and everyone else. It is imperative, once you get this gate code, that you don't just unlock the gate, but that you lock it back behind you. Because we don't want to lose access to being able to make that portage during practice. I will say that most folks at this time have stopped worrying about the mile stretch between the dam and the Hot 183 bridge. If they're paddling from Palmetto down, they simply park at the parking lot there, or they put in, if they're going to paddle from Gonzales down, they put in at the bridge and paddle down. Bobby had.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, there's a lot of discussion about it. I talked to the mayor about this, and basically in the future we're hoping they take the lock off. It's going to be unlocked when we have the water supply going. So as Jay said, we put the combination out. They have had some people that drowned below the dam in recent times, and that was the reason for it.
So what you couldn't hear Bob say is that the lock may be removed at Gonzales, but it is very dangerous.
So I think it will be removed in the future. But now,
It will be removed for the actual safari.
If in practice we decide to portage right, you can, right now that's fine. I will say that you need to watch your footing at that particular juncture, you know, just leave it at that. But you need to watch your footing. I know that if we get to a situation where we have high water, we will make the long portage over on the right-hand side because that's the safest way to do the whole thing. Because you just bypass that whole little loop right there. All right, from the gravel bar is the checkpoint right now. This is you're going to be your last checkpoint. It's going to be the last time you see your team for about 37 miles, 38 miles. So you want to make sure that you've got everything that you need in the boat with you, that you haven't, you don't have a situation where you're going to run out of water or anything. So, how would I describe concept of hold on? Prepare to be bored out of your skull for about 38 miles. With the exception of you will get to Monkey Island. I still hope there's enough water where you get the whole Monkey Island experience of do I go right or left here.
Start singing monkey.
What's that?
That's why it's monkey eye.
I have no idea. Somebody called it monkey. I always called it, my old roommate, his family owned the land on River Left, and I always called it Dryer's Island. Then somebody started calling it Monkey Island, which sounds so much cooler. You know, and you know, you gotta have cool names if you're gonna do a hard race, right? And it's probably the point where most people, if you try to stay awake the whole time, you know, you may be seeing flying monkeys for, I mean, if you haven't seen them yet, you're gonna see them later. The Hoheim, that's the closest little town. It's up the hill. That checkpoint at Highway 183, you have to reach it by 7 a.m. on Monday. And this is a perfect course description. Similar river conditions as the previous section. I would say, Kristen said to remind, parking under the Hoheim Bridge is very limited. If somebody has spit or peed under there, it's probably so slick that you can't get a regular car into. It's all we have access to is right of way. I would suggest that you park along the roadway
Safely.
Or under like the first.
yeah, or if you do drive down there, the first probably 3 sets of bridge buttresses. The county down there is really good about helping us clean stuff up. So it'll be mowed, but it gets really slick, and it's 1 lane in and 1 lane out kind of thing. So we do have a police officer that's up on the bridge to kind of help with the safety aspect of it, but it's just not good egress and ingress and egress. Did I say that right?
You did?
Cheapside Bridge. This section, like I said, similar river conditions. One of the things that happened is the Cuero Dam. What is it below? Anyway, at some point, you don't have to paddle up the Cuero Dam and portage anymore. You get to take a long meandering route around it because one of the floods actually broke through everything. And you're probably never going to get to see Cuero Dam unless, you know, the lawsuit ever gets settled down there and they rebuild it all. Which is sad because it was the oldest hydroelectric dam in the state. So it was kind of neat in that regard. However, the portage sucked. It was just, there was no good way around it. And so I'm not sad to see that gone. From there you'll see Old Cuero, Old San Antonio Road, Peacock Bridge. It's got about 1 billion names. It's only remarkable, and there's actually, that's what we used for the checkpoint
Last year. But we're not doing it this year? Yes. Last year, the Cuero Cheapside Bridge was out, and we had to go to the Peacock Bridge on 87.
So I don't know if they finished construction on the Cheapside Bridge, so it's possible that this is more important than I made it sound, and it is going to be the checkpoint. Okay? I don't know that for a fact. It's mostly remarkable because the single fastest stretch of river is about, there's my wonderful 20-year-old daughter I keep talking about. The mile and a half above this bridge is the fastest stretch of river. You know, we always like to have people up there taking videos of us because we look like we're really stringing along even when we're sucking eggs. The Cuero 236 bridge, which is the normal checkpoint, that's a 7 p.m. Monday, if I recall correctly. Correct? I'll double check it here. Last year when it was upstream at Old San Antonio Road, or 3402, or whatever we're calling it, it was 2 hours earlier. It was 5 o'clock because it allowed for that time in that stretch. Any questions to this point?
Any changes in checkpoints or bridges like that, we will update everybody on beforehand and in the safety meeting.
That's correct. So the next stretch is what you will hear referred to as the old prelim course. The prelim, the Texas Marathon, River Marathon, used to go from Highway 236 to the Victoria City Park boat ramp. Now we go from River Haven RV Park to the pump house, which is at the bottom end of Victoria City Park. And it makes for a really nice meal, and it makes for a really nice place to hang out and finish. And so, and it also makes it 5 miles shorter, which is wonderful in its own regard, because I will tell you, sometimes I think that the prelim race is harder than a big race. So anyhow, we start at 236 and we go to the Thomaston Bridge. It's not written in here, but the RV park is about 9 miles downstream, just so you have a frame of reference. Now this is confusing sometimes because from time to time the RV park is booked up to where they do not want us using it during the Texas Water Safari. Excuse me. So do not count on it as a checkpoint unless you've either heard us say that it's okay, or you've heard us say that it's not okay, or if you have heard nothing, remember it's private property and you can't just go run willy-nilly on it. I don't think I've touched on that for you guys that are team captains. Respect private property at all times. One of the reasons that I've talked about Gonzales Dam that we made that portage over on the left to be mandatory is because people were abusing that piece of property, not necessarily getting permission to go in. And, you know, one thing that we, and by extension you, do not want to happen, we don't want to end up with landowners that don't want us hanging out on their property, you know, or unhappy with us, because that, you know, unhappy landowners make for unhappy politicians, and unhappy politicians, you know, it's a slippery slope that we don't want to get on.
And we're in Texas, y'all. Everybody's got a gun. Don't trespass. Just don't trespass.
That's right. And by God, if you get to a locked gate, for whatever reason you got to a locked gate, don't try to unlock it, don't try to unchain it, don't try to do anything. You've gone the wrong way. Unless we've given you a specific instance, which I'll get to in a minute, of there's a gate you have to go through, and this will be the code for it. I'm 3 minutes late, I've got to go faster. Okay. So you go through this stretch from the Thomaston Bridge to the Nursery Bridge. There are about 4 rapids. 2 of them are kind of like meh. Actually, 3 of them are kind of meh. The third one can be a little exciting in different water levels. Probably that stretch is tougher in low water than high water because you actually have to do more maneuvering around. And I will say that about a mile below the Thomaston Bridge is the Thomaston Sweeper. Actually, I should go back. Once you go past, when the prelim race starts at River Haven, there is a sweeper. Is it even a half mile, Morgan?
Yeah, it's about half mile.
I mean, it's just right there. It seems like the gun goes off and you've got to turn right. And that sweeper, we haven't, to the best of my knowledge, had anybody get messed up there during the Texas River Marathon. It has been a place of eating some boats during the water safari because your reaction time at that point has certainly slowed down. Same thing with this right below Thomaston Bridge, where we're at now. About a mile down, there's a nasty little sweeper. I mean, the whole river just slides to the right. Sometimes it's wide open, and sometimes there's gungamunga in there that will bite you. Victoria City Park boat ramp. You must reach this by 9 a.m. Tuesday. yes, the park is closed at midnight, but we have permission to be there. It's not for, it's not a camping permit, so I don't want to mislead you. However, they recognize what's happening. If you're sleeping in your car or something, they're not going to run you off. Let's see. Now I'm going to call everything the wrong name for the next second or two because they've all changed. About 6 miles down, you're going to come to the Business 59 Bridge. Nothing exciting there. I mean, although this whole section is I would say all the way from the Victoria boat ramp to almost to the Highway 59 bridge. If I say Loop 175, it's because I'm old and it wasn't always the actual highway. That whole section has some really kind of deceiving sweepers in it. Haven't really, we've had some boat damage in there, nothing, and this also does not have on it, no it doesn't. It's not the newest new bridge. I think we're on about the 8th new bridge since I started racing. But about 3 miles above Victoria City Park, is that Highway 77?
Yes.
There's the Highway 77 bridge. There's really no good handoff access there. However, there is an island right below it that you need to choose whether you're going to go right or left. Left is probably a hair faster, but it also tends to have junk in there that can beat up your boat. So be prepared for that. Let's see. Now then you go to, is the power plant running or not running right now? Right below Business 59 is the old Victoria power plant. It could be the absolutely loudest thing you have ever heard, unless you're actually standing on a train track right before it hits you. Going to get to the 59 bypass or Highway 59, also known as Loop 175. It is also the end of another paddling trail, and they've done some pretty decent improvements on being able to get down to the water and back up. However, right next to the water is still one of those areas that the silt, etc., makes it not the most pleasant place to stand if you're a team captain. Maybe here it's gross. And the river is trying to change its course right there, so it's making a big loop and dumping more silt. And you don't need to worry about that. Let's see, cornfield cut. Let me just let you read that where it says, "Do not take any cuts in this section of river." Anything, as a general rule, anything that, and this is, I'll say, from Loop 175, Highway 59, until you get to Swinging Bridge, anything that goes off to the left, just consider that it's illegal. Don't do it. Just stay in the main river channel. That's enough about that. The Swinging Bridge checkpoint.
How many turns?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. From Loop 175, here's, I'm going to give you this one thing to keep your mind occupied. From Loop 175 to Swinging Bridge, there are 105 turns in the river. And that's real turns. Go ahead and double check me on that, and let me know when you get to Seadrift. If
105.
You
105.
Yeah, that you have to know the answer to that and give me an accurate count to get your patch at the finish line. Not really. So you get Swinging Bridge. The cutoff time there is 8 p.m. on Sunday? No, Monday. What day?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
8 p.m. Tuesday. Holy smokes. I really hope it doesn't take us this long. Swinging bridge and everything off of Canal Road
This man a drink.
is closed except for the race with the following exception. When we haven't had really terribly high water, it's not been flooded, the folks that own the place where we do the checkpoint have allowed us to use that for that training run. That's Sunday after the prelim.
And we will announce it on.
And you'll either know that at prelim check-in or and the prelim awards banquet.
We'll post it on Facebook.
And it'll be on all the social media stuff. But it's important again. And this is one of those areas of the river you're going to want to see. You want to see from Swinging Bridge to the saltwater barrier dam. That's where all the cuts and all the really cool, fun stuff is. And you're going to hear somebody say, "Oh, just go down to the railroad tracks and get in the river." But guess what? That's all private property. So unless you have permission from a landowner to use that, do not do it. We don't want to lose access. So what that means is, in essence, to see that in practice, unless you know somebody who owns land along there, to see that in practice, you have to go from 175 to the Highway 35 bridge, which is about 38 or 39 miles. And can make for a really long day. But you get to see lots of cool stuff like alligators and snakes and deer.
Log jams
And what?
Log jams.
And the log jams are there. If the jams are there, that's why those of us who've been around for a long time tend to spend a good portion of time down there. There's a horseshoe bend in the river that, and this will be on the thing we post up on the page where you can actually see what we're talking about without me putting all the actual routes through there, because you need to figure that out for yourself. Because the river is always there. You can always follow the river, whether you have to drag up along the bank or do whatever. If you're going to use any of the shortcuts, you're going to need to get down there with somebody who already knows them, or, although in this day and age there's always some fool who thinks, "Man, I want everybody to know that I know," and they go post it up on the interwebs, here's the track to go through there. Well, I'd also tell you that GPS is accurate to within what? Does anybody remember? 9 meters, 12 meters, something like that. So 12 meters this way, 12 meters that way. So what's a meter? 3 feet roughly. 36 feet, 72 feet. Guess what? Those spots you're trying to go through aren't wider than the boat. Aren't wider than the boat turned sideways. I should be careful if I say that. So they'll put you in the wrong spot. You need to go down there and spend a day and learn where you go. Maybe spend a couple of days. Heck, maybe spend every Thursday from the time daylight savings comes till the race gets here. Whatever it takes. The other option for seeing it is you can put in at Calhoun's, which is the Highway 35 bridge. The Highway 35 bridge, and paddle up. That's hard, but it's not going to take as long as if you paddle from the 175 bridge or 59. But it's cool. It's my favorite stretch of river. That's probably why I spend way too much time talking about it. It's the wild section. It's really where you see the stuff where you can see the impacts of people having been there, but you don't see people as a general rule. Morgan, Bob,
So if you didn't hear Will, he said he saw it the Wednesday before the race, and it had changed, so.
I mean, and that's exactly right. You know, I forget what year, but you know, we went through and the water had dropped enough to where, you know, where you paddled through the week before was now, you know, a drop in the river. It's a lot of fluctuations happen down there. So the railroad bridge is probably the only hard and fast checkpoint right there. You'll see some fishing shacks over on the left bank, and you'll get to the railroad bridge about 6 miles-ish past the Swinging Bridge checkpoint. Then you go through what's either called Alligator Alley or Hallucination Alley, depending on who you're talking to. My goodness, if you didn't see the flying monkeys earlier, if you're out there past about 50 hours, you're going to see something. And if you're not going to see something, man, you need to go to one of those states where all that stuff is legal and try it out, because it's pretty cool. I don't know if you have it, something in Louisiana. Saltwater barrier, you have to reach this by 6 a.m. Wednesday. I have to tell you, as a race official, somebody else put this thing on year after year, this checkpoint and the next checkpoint are probably the two, well, the next checkpoint is the finish line. Probably the most heartbreaking thing. There's somebody that is there, they are close to the cutoff, it's 6 o'clock, you have 7 hours to get from there to the finish line. And the one thing that you're not going to know what is exactly happening is the condition of the bay. So you don't want to get yourself there at the cutoff. The next stretch of river from Swing Saltwater Barrier down to the bay, you can go 3 miles to hit the 35 bridge. Then you're going to go, and depending on, I'm going to make an educated guess at this point, having not been down there. Unless the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department has sprayed it or done something, the South Fork of the river will probably be jammed with water hyacinth, and you'll need to go out trailer cut. And all that to say, that's just my educated guess. Have you heard anything from them, Bob?
I hadn't talked to them lately. You know, they cleaned out and sprayed last year. When it gets a little warmer, we'll just have to see what's going to be there. They might help us again. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those, one of those things that changes on the river. Next, so now you're in the bay.
Back on the trailer, will we be notified in advance?
You need to know that, man. I mean, I will say that the years that it's been an absolutely no-brainer, the landowners there actually cleared up the right-hand bank where people can do handoffs beforehand. But man, that's one of those things where, in real terms, I love Bob dearly, but he and I disagree on some of these things. He wants to tell everybody, and I don't want to tell anybody anything. I mean, by God, I don't want them to know. I want you to have to figure it out because I do know, and I've taken the time to learn that. So.
Yeah, but if it's impassable, it will have been posted or announced.
Yeah, somebody will say something because nobody keeps their mouth shut with the internet days.
I think there was a guy last year, I think his brother was there and drug something and cleared it all out.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of the Texas Parks and Wildlife do the spraying and everything.
Oh, thank you. It's okay.
So the last bit, you're going to come into the river. If you come into Trailer Cut, you're going to have to make a big kind of left, or a big clockwise turn to get to the main part of the bay. If you're able to go out the South Fork of the river, you're going to come in, and you're going to turn slightly right. Now this is where getting down there to see things is a huge deal for you because you need to know these landmarks. in relatively means different things to different people. In relatively calm conditions, you would paddle the Foster's Point, which is on the right-hand side if you're going south, and then you would kind of cut over and just make a shallow arc over to the finish line. It's important to note, although I think for most of you it wouldn't matter, the finish line is at Bill Sanders Memorial Park, aka Swan Point, not the flagpole at Seabrook, at their city park. And that's lots of reasons for that. The primary one being that Harvey really tore up the seawall there, and it's not
Safe.
open for business. And at that point, what do we need to look for, Morgan? Flashing lights, LED lights, cops, any lights you can see at Foster Point. Not Foster, at Swan Point. It is a bit misleading in the dark because you can see past Swan Point and see a line of houses over on the far bank. Then you'll keep heading for those. But that's it. You finished, you've gotten there in 100 hours or better. And if you're there before 11 o'clock on Tuesday, you're there in time for the banquet. It's probably the best shrimp you'll ever eat. And what? Catfish. Oh, Cassie says the best catfish you'll ever eat. But she's young. And better, but not better shrimp. And so we want you to, so the purpose of all this, all these rules, everything we talked about this morning, we want you to get there. It doesn't do us any good for you not to finish. And so these are the conditions you need to finish under. These are, this is the guidelines or the rules that make the race. To the best of my knowledge, and Bob he's been the head race judge since we came. Has anybody been disqualified for messing up the food rules?
I don't know.
But they have been, chastised. I think you should say for the very least, and they may have been penalized. I don't know. Oh, I did not mention these. It's good to have help up here.
Yeah. Get this man a
The
lozenge.
Victoria Barge Canal is off limits.
Oh, yeah.
I missed that coming through. You need to look that up on the. All right, nobody knows. It's the vegetarian pizza king in the room. So. The Google Earth is, let me tell you, when I started doing this, the first year I had a map that was the map that the outfitters up here gave out, which was kind of a cartoon map. And I went to go from 175 or Highway 59 down to Swinging Bridge before it was not legal to go there. And if you look on this map, it's like this far from Victoria Boat Ramp to Old 59, and about this far on that map from Old 59 to Loop 175, and about this far on the map from 175 to Swinging Bridge. Well, 105 turns later, and 3 hours, my cousin who was shoveling for it had already called the sheriff, because she was convinced that we were lost and would never be seen again. So that's when I went and I bought all the USGS, 124,000 maps. And a lot of the distances you'll see are not from a GPS, but they're from me with a little wheel going down with those maps. And now you can get on Google Earth and plot it out with pretty good accuracy. It's a good tool. But it's not 100%. It's not, there are log jams showing on Google Earth right now that are not there. There are clear spots on Google Earth in the river where there are jams at this point. So don't take it as gospel because you don't know when the last overflight was. But do use it to learn where the Victoria Barge Canal is because you don't want to end up in there. Yeah, because that's one of those places where it used to be, you don't need to know the reasons because you don't care. It used to be lots of spoil island there, but that's eroded through the years. And so you can end up in the barge canal. It's not because we're trying to keep anybody from having a house or a roof. It's because when one of those barges comes through, it is amazing how much water they displace. And you don't want to be in there at the same time with them. It's already bad enough that we have to cross the barge canal in the bay. And you need to, look both ways before crossing the street. When you see those markers, you don't want to assume that because you're in the middle of a race, you have the right of way through the barge. Anyway, yes?
I may have missed this, but are they allowed to have the course description and a map in the boat with them?
Oh, Lord, you have a GPS with every waypoint of known.
The question was, can you have a map in the boat of the course? And the answer is, of course, yes.
As long as it's listed on that check-in sheet.
But if you go in the boat canal, there will be a
penalty of some sort.
Yes.
I mean, it's a safety violation.
Yeah, we can see it on your squad trip.
Interweb people will see you in about 30 or 45 minutes. We're going to go eat some pizza for the people who gave it up for the crap to show up. And
then we will reconvene.
so we'll be back here about 1, pizza in the back.
Okay,
Maybe
so
go eat that vegetarian stuff like that. I don't want to take up there.
thank you.
There's drinks and,
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for your support.
Okay, so this ends part 2 of the seminar. Today we will have a 30-minute break-ish, coming back about 1 p.m. This was the course description, and we will be going on with all equipment in the afternoon. Thanks for tuning in.